I am a huge believer that the single most difficult habit to change in life is saying yes all the time. Breaking any habit is really hard, but breaking this one means facing our fears, getting brave, and putting relationships and other important parts of our lives at risk. There were more options available to me than simply saying, yes, I'll do it for you now, that let me set boundaries and expectations of my own. You can only be all that you are for yourself and use that to help other people in the right way, the best way for you and for them. And sometimes that means actually saying no. Every single time you choose something other than an automated yes, you're helping to make your organisation a better place for everyone in it, including you. Hey, welcome to the Leaders Podcast with me, Laura McDonald, the leadership coach and mentor. Come with me as I explore the elements of leadership that give leaders like you the power and confidence to make the impact you know you can. I'll be sharing my own experiences, top tips and insights, and talking to some very special guests to share their thoughts and leadership experiences on mindset, influence, change, and growth. So let's get right to it. So, the Leaders podcast is returning after a short spring break, and I could not be more excited. I've already got lots of guests planned in, ready to record their episodes, and I can't wait for you to hear it all. One thing I really wanted when I started this podcast was to make sure that it talked about the whole leadership experience, and that means bringing in the easy conversations as well as the hard conversations. If you ever have a suggestion about an episode that you want to hear, or a topic that you think needs covering that hasn't been yet, or if you have a guest in mind that you think would be really great for this podcast, please feel free to DM me on LinkedIn. But one thing I really wanted to speak about on this episode is an issue I've experienced a lot throughout my career, one that I found really challenging to overcome, and one that I bet an awful lot of you out there also suffer with too. If saying yes less is your goal, this is the episode for you. I am a huge believer that the single most difficult habit to change in life is saying yes all the time. Breaking any habit is really hard, but breaking this one means facing our fears, getting brave, and putting relationships and other important parts of our lives at risk. And we often talk ourselves out of even trying this before we've given ourselves the chance to consider why we should try at all. And these are substantial fears as well. We're breaking rules that are set for us all our lives by putting people first, not being selfish, always being helpful and participative, and especially in a work setting, getting on board with the way things are done around here. For the most part, that last one is really important to do because the way things are done around here is the culture that builds the organisation. But when we have to challenge that, say the culture is unhealthy in some way, try to make small changes to serve everyone better, the single biggest risk factor is the possibility of being labelled difficult, a troublemaker, someone who's not on board and potentially managed out. So once again, we talk ourselves into saying yes, even when we know it should be a firm no. I worked for a long time in an industry where saying no was rarely acceptable, and one way or another you were going to be talked into it, or there were consequences. That was the scariest bit. Knowing how hard I'd worked for everything I had, considering saying no was one of the rare times I thought about the direct consequences to me, and 99% of the time that led me to saying yes anyway, because I was terrified of what would happen to me. And when I did stand my ground and say no on some key practices in one particular business I worked in, my worst fears were confirmed when it was made abundantly clear to me that making profit at any cost was more important than the welfare of the people around me. My next move was very clear and I left. But the more day-to-day reality of saying yes all the time is much simpler than that. Throughout my own life, I've said yes consistently, filling my diary to the brim with things I physically don't have time for, taking on everything for everyone, somehow trying to rescue them or be seen as being helpful or supportive, or even just feeling like someone is going to look down on me or disapprove my saying no. In many ways, that was far more terrifying to me than dealing with the rarer big issues that clearly had some sort of potential consequence on me. It was like I couldn't let people down, especially as a leader. The pressure of being the one to fix everything, to know everything, to take the pressure off other people, not to bother them too much was all there as well. And it all felt like a boulder on top of my head that I had to keep balancing, and there couldn't be any sign of me dropping it or even letting it slip just to my shoulders. So today I want to spend this episode sharing with you what drove me to do that and how I changed that habit into one that serves me much better now. Knowing what I know now, there was one huge driver behind my continuous behaviour: confirmation bias. The weird thing is, I was absolutely driven to make my team completely independent of me, because I kind of had no choice. A kitchen can't function effectively with one person doing everything and 20 others standing there doing nothing. So if I needed to say no, I did. I did the same with leaders of other businesses that I was supporting. I wasn't going to be in their business for more than a day or two a month, so they had to know how to do this on their own. The people I personally had trouble turning down was anyone higher than me in the hierarchy. I sought out all the reasons why I should say yes. Well, I'll be helping that person out, they'll be happy with me, they'll get all their stuff done, they won't feel too stressed, they'll manage their time better, they're trusting me with that huge important job or reaching that huge important target, and I'm privileged to have this opportunity. It's good for the team, good for the business, therefore it must be good for me. I talked myself into it daily. So here's what that missed out: all the benefits that I've just listed to other people had the exact opposite effect on me. No one was growing their time management skills because I was doing it for them. No one was growing their ability to have honest conversations with me about this. I'd rescued them before they had the chance to talk to me about anything because I started suggesting targets and tasks that I could do for them, which was even worse because eventually their mindset was, Laura will fix it. Knowing what I know now, I was supporting the continuation of a huge and unhealthy cycle that ran all the way down the management chain. What I was feeling, my manager was feeling, and their manager was feeling, and so on and so on and so on. And also knowing what I know now, I was hiding what the business, the team, and I really did need. I did do capacity planning, but I was doing it based on having a 24 hours in a day, not the 8 to 12 hours I was at work every day, never mind the 2 to 3 hours a day I actually had to do something other than leave my kitchen if I was lucky. So, first of all, the important thing to do here is recognize and acknowledge that confirmation bias is happening. By doing that, you're acknowledging that you are purposely giving yourself only one perspective, the good one, and you're working really hard to convince yourself that the only way is to say yes, that's the right thing to do, the only way to go, and I need to be on board with this, right? Recognize just how much energy is going into saying yes, because that should give you an indication as to whether you actually wanted to say yes at all. When you need to put very little energy into convincing yourself to say yes, you know it was the right decision for you. But when you need to put a fair bit of energy in, you know you maybe can still say yes, but perhaps with some boundaries or parameters in place. And when you need to put a lot of energy into convincing yourself to saying yes, this is not something you actually want to say yes to. And quite often that will come with a smile through gritted teeth or an immediate drop in energy, so your physical reaction will help you identify this too. Look back on the last time you said yes to something and answer yourself the following questions as openly and honestly as you possibly can from memory. How much energy did you put into convincing yourself to say yes on a scale of 1 to 10? What does this tell you about whether you wanted to say yes? And what action do you need to take next time you're asked to do this? By the way, if you put a score of 1 in energy into it, and it was totally something you wanted to say yes to, I'm behind you 100%. But it is always still worth asking that third question, because as much as we will say yes to things that we absolutely love to do, we do need to set expectations too. So if there was something you needed to do to make that yes more achievable or a little less pressured while you're fulfilling it, you can still action that now. But give yourself the space and time to evaluate whether you really wanted to say yes in full, in part, or not at all. You'll soon start to see patterns in things you do and don't want to say yes to. And most of it's not down to whether you like doing that task or not. It's to do with the wider picture going on around you. Like how busy you already were, how many targets you were trying to meet at the same time, how long the things you're being asked to do really do take, and what you think the person asking you is trying to accomplish, like avoidance of doing it themselves. Once you've got that understanding of why you want to say yes or not to different tasks at different times, you can start to focus on achieving a better balance of yeses and nos. Another big driver was my own internal need to please people, to meet everyone else's expectations, to make people happy and make life as easy for them as possible. I was driven by helping others to succeed. The problem with that was that it was making my life miserable. I was overworked, burned out, and my days were getting longer and longer. I could physically feel myself switching off from all connection to others and my purpose and just going into autopilot, which was never in a million years going to help me lead others, right? But I still wanted to help. I've always wanted to help. So how could I do that without driving myself into the ground? The answer was actually quite simple: to realize how many other options there were. For example, if the person asking me to do it is asking me because they don't know how, why couldn't I do what I did with my team and train them, coach them, mentor them on it so they could do it with ease in the future? Putting the effort in now meant a lot less effort going forward. There was the choice to point them to the people with the space and time to do what I didn't have time to do for them. I could also signpost them to someone who was more of an expert than me in what they needed, or I could make the choice to ask them what priorities they wanted me to drop to accommodate this one, or tell them now was not a good time, but propose two other times that were more suitable for me and let them choose which one worked for them too. There were more options available to me than simply saying, yes, I'll do it for you now, that let me set boundaries and expectations of my own. And when it came to capacity planning, by not hiding how much there really was to do, the business was given the choice to fill roles based on those needs. And should they choose not to, there was still only so much I could get done with the time I had available. Work with other leaders across the business to make more strategic decisions to accomplish your goals without compromising time you aren't paid for or the breaks you need, by keeping accountability where it belongs. If the business needs more done than is possible with the people and time available, then either the needs list needs to be shortened or recruitment needs to happen. That is for the top leaders of the business to decide, and whatever those leaders do decide, support them to achieve it. You can still help without taking responsibility for the hard decisions they must make. Same with showing people how to complete a task rather than doing it for them. You're still helping, but your energy is being channeled in the right direction. A.C. Benson, 28th Master of Magdalen College, Cambridge, said people seldom refuse help if one offers it in the right way. And that's your responsibility, to find out the right way to offer help and take your time to figure that out. Immediate responses are not required 99% of the time. If something was urgent, the person asking you would tell you that. For instance, as I'm recording this podcast right this second, as a bit of a coincidence, I've just had a request for help on giving someone some insight into something, which I'm more than happy to help with. But I'm in the middle of recording a podcast episode and I have to get this whole thing edited and ready to go, as well as a couple of other priorities today. My natural instinct is to go straight back to this person, especially because I work quite closely with this person, and respond right now. But I'm busy right now. So the chances are I'll get back to her tomorrow, which not only works better for my time, but will give me a chance to think about what I want to say to her and give her a better response than if I was to distract myself in the middle of all the other things I have to do today and give her a rushed response that wouldn't necessarily help her accomplish her goal. You can listen to more advice about more urgency and priorities in my previous episode, Every Moment Matters. But also, a few minutes ago, you thought about the last time you said yes to something. Think about it again. What other help could you have offered instead? One internal battle I'm sure a lot of you out there, and me too, have had is the desire to be accepted in the world. And with life as it is now, that battle can be even more difficult to win. We're constantly comparing ourselves to others. Imposter syndrome occurs in almost all of us, and we're continuously exposed to the perfect online picture of others without their whole reality. But when it's your colleagues you're trying to please, the ones you hope to get acceptance from, there's much more hope because you see a great deal more of their whole picture. You know they're not perfect either. You also know they're probably feeling and have definitely felt at some point that same imposter syndrome you feel right now. Making the choice to see what's right in front of you, a real and honest picture of what's happening for those around you, and then choosing to lean into that to further your connection and influence with others can be a powerful choice. It's not about constantly highlighting others' pain points, it's about recognizing them together and knowing that you have something you've all been through and bringing yourselves back to an honest conversation, one you first need to have with yourself. Acceptance starts with self-acceptance, so remind yourself that you cannot be everything to everyone. You can only be all that you are for yourself, and use that to help other people in the right way, the best way for you and for them. And sometimes that means actually saying no. Just like feedback, it's about directly and honestly addressing the issue. So use direct and honest words and language like, no, I can't help with that, or I'm fully booked with other commitments. That avoids blame on the other person, keeps the conversation clear, and avoids needless and lengthy justifications and explanations or language that gives other people the impression you can be swayed, like maybe. Maybe is a terrible word. Don't be under any illusion that this won't be uncomfortable either. Even for those of us practiced in saying no, we don't like the feeling. It will always be there. But the more that you do it, the more you learn how to accept it and push through it. And to make sure that you're saying no at the right time, take that few seconds to think before you respond to somebody. Instead of it being a knee jerk reaction, think about what you really want to say. So when you say no, it's not rushed, it's a thought through response. Think about the last time you should have said no but didn't. What would you have said? I'm not going to pretend that saying yes less is easy, but the steps to changing the habit are not difficult. It's about consistent practice, consistent accountability and ownership, and consistent recognition of the evidence that will build your confidence. When you start talking yourself into saying yes again, remember that confirmation bias and seek out the facts of both sides so you can weigh up your decision based on the whole picture rather than evidence that is mostly untrue. Recognize all the options available to you. It's very rarely a black and white choice between yes and no. There's a huge middle ground you can explore. And remind yourself that sometimes the only option is to say no when it's what's best for you and the person asking you. You can do this with all the kindness you need to do it with, but be direct, honest, and avoid the justification. But most importantly, remember that your quality of work is just as important as everyone else's. Your time, your well-being, your priorities are all just as important as everyone else's. And if when I said that you started a sentence in your head with, I know, but, I'm going to stop you right there. It is as important as everyone else's. No buts. Because a team only works when all its members are supported, open, and honest with each other. Even if you are the leader, you are still one member of a team. Learning to have a balance between yes and no by discovering all the options available in the middle means you take the opportunities that align with your needs and goals, create and maintain a healthier working relationship with your colleagues at all levels, and support the organisation to achieve its own goals through clarification of the real picture. Every single time you choose something other than an automated yes, you're helping to make your organisation a better place for everyone in it, including you. Until next time, everyone.